Hi everyone. In this video, we're going to go ahead and delete our recipes. For the previous video, we went ahead and updated our recipes so that we can be able to change the way our data is on the back end. So in this video, we're going to go ahead and implement functionality that will help us to delete these both on our front end and on our back end. So we shall be deleting these recipes on our front end, and then they will be deleted at the API side of our application. So let's get started. So I'm going to go through my Visual Studio Code, and within our recipe.js, what I'm going to do is to just add a simple button that's going to delete our recipe. So you're going to come right in here and add button. Now, the first thing I'm going to do is to give it a variant. So I'll give this a variant of danger, and then I'll give it an on click. So basically, it's going to have an on click handler. This on click handler will simply delete a recipe. So what I'll do is to say delete recipe. I'll actually call this on delete, so that will lift this. So I'm going to call it on delete, and then I'll say delete. And what I'll do is to separate these two buttons with a space. So to do that, since we are in JSX, all I can do is to just provide a space and save. And we head over to our front end. So right now we see that on delete is undefined. So I'm going to come right here and add it. So what I'll do is to lift this. So say on. So this is going to be on delete. When I save, head over to our front end, and now we see that our delete buttons are readily available. So now what you're going to do is when we click a button like this, we expect that it's going to delete that specific recipe, and then be able to update our UI so that we see that the recipe has been removed. So let's go ahead and do that. So the first thing I'm going to do is to go to our home.js where we have a list of recipes. So I'll go to home.js. And in this case, what we're going to do is to select that recipe with a given ID. So right in here, we passed our own delete prop. So I'll come and pass it right here. So what I'll do is to say, we're going to have an on delete, and this is going to be the same as what we did in the previous video. So in this case, what we're going to do is to just create a function called delete recipe. So in this case, we're going to delete a recipe. Now we shall also have to access the ID of that recipe we want to delete. I'm going to save this. When I save this, what I'm going to do is to go up. So I'll go and create a function that's going to delete our recipe. So to do this, I'll do const. So this is going to be delete. Actually, it's going to be delete recipe, and it's going to take in an ID, and then we shall have this function. So right now, what you want to do is to just console log. So what I'll do is to just console log the ID. So for now, let's just console log the ID. Now, if I save this, I'm going to correct this syntax. So this is going to be an arrow function. So when I save and go back to our client, so right now we can see that our UI is working. So when I inspect elements, I'm going to go to the console. So when I go to the console and be able to delete, right now we see that the ID of the selected recipe is console log. So when I go to one that has an ID of 8, and let's say one that has an ID of 10, you see that its ID is being console logged in the console. Let's go ahead and work on the functionality that's going to delete these recipes. So to do that, what I shall do is to come back to our code. And what I'll do is to actually make a fetch request that's going to delete that specific recipe. So to do that, I'll come right in here. So the first thing I'm going to be able to access is our token from local storage. So right now we see that we accessed our token from local storage. So what I'll do is to make this variable global so that we can be able to use it even outside our update recipe function. So I'll just simply put it out here. So basically it's going to be local token, which is local storage.get item, which is our React token auth key. Now I'll come right here And what I'll do in this case is to create a simple fetch function. So what I'll do is to say fetch, and then when I head over to our backend documentation, so our backend documentation is a localhost 5000 slash docs. We can now see that our route for deleting a recipe is at slash recipe slash id. So let's go ahead and implement that. So I'll come within our fetch function, and what I'll do is to pass in that URL. So the URL in this case is going to be slash recipe slash recipe, and then the ID of the recipe. So to put it in our URL, I'm going to use JavaScript template strings. So then I'll provide an ID. So this is going to be our ID. Now I'm also going to create a simple request options object. So I'll come just slightly above here, and what I'll do is actually implemented it in a previous video. So what I'll do is to just come right here and copy this. So right now I'm going to paste it just above here. And now our method is going to be a delete method. So this is going to be delete. Now our headers are going to be the content type as well as our authorization header. It's going to contain our token that we're going to pass in this request. So since we are doing a delete request, we do not need a body. So I'm going to remove the body. And after removing the body, what I'll do is to just come and provide the request option. So I'll just come and say this is going to be our request options. So after doing this now, what you shall do is to access the response. So I'll say res JSON, and after accessing that response, then we shall need to get the data. So in this case, if we have any data, what we shall do is to just also log that data. And after doing this, now the next thing is going to be to actually, let me fix this. It's going to be console log data. And then after that, what we shall do is to actually catch any error. So to do this, I'll just say dot catch an error. Then right here, I'll console log any error that we shall get. So let me fix this. It's going to be our error. When I save, we expect that this function is going to be able to delete that specific uh, recipe with that ID. Let's go ahead and do this. So I'm going to head over to our client, and right here in our React app, so we see that we have an error. So let's try to see. We're actually missing a semicolon at line 95. So I'm going to fix that. So I'm going to head over to line 95. So right here we have then response to JSON. The problem is actually here. Let's fix it. Need to come and provide that curly brace, and when I save, hoping that this time things are working. So if I refresh, our recipes are now showing. Let's try to actually see how we're going to do this. So when I click delete, we expect that it's going to send the delete request to our API and be able to delete that specific recipe. When I come to our console, I'm going to delete. When we delete, we see that we are seeing that our recipe is now shown. So let's try to send this request again. So when I say delete, we now have an error message showing us that the requested URL is not found on our server. And now this is showing us that our delete request has been successful. Let's go ahead and update our UI to be able to show this happening. Right now we see that when we delete a recipe, we cannot update our list to show that this recipe has been deleted. I need to refresh, and now when I refresh, you notice that the deleted recipe is no longer appearing in our list of recipes. So let's go ahead and try to fix this. So what I'm going to do is to set the state to actually make that delete request and then fetch the list of recipes as it is from the API, then update the state of our UI. So to do this, I'm going to come right in here within our data. So just here, when we have a successful response and we've console logged the data, all we need to do is to make a fetch request for our recipes and then set our state to those recipes. So right here at the use effect hook that we implemented in the previous videos, we have that specific fetch function that helps us to get our recipes. So you need to copy it When I copy it, what I'll do is to just create a function. So I'll create a function right here. So this is going to be const get all recipes. So I'm going to actually call this get all recipes. And what this is going to do is to just carry out what the fetch function will do. So we're going to just put the fetch function right in here. So I'll come just after also logging our data after a successful delete request. What I shall do is to come and then fetch the recipes from our API. Actually, what I'll do since we put all this in a function is to say get all. So this is going to be get all recipes. So the function get all recipes is going to get all the recipes and then set the recipe data to the data it's going to get in this case. So that means that when we delete a recipe, we make a get request that returns a list of recipes as they are and then update our UI. So let's go ahead and see this in action. So when I see here, we have console log data, then get all recipes. So I'm going to save. Let's try to see this in action. So when I go to our browser, so let's try to delete our recipe. So when I say delete, we see that that recipe has been deleted and our UI is now updated. So when I delete another recipe, we see that that recipe has been deleted and now our UI is updated. So let me delete another one. So when I delete, we see that now our UI is updating. So I'm going to delete all of them. And now our UI can update when we delete our recipes. So in this video, we've been able to delete our recipes. And if you like this video, please go ahead and love and like, comment, share. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so. And see you in the next video. Bye.